You're gonna have to
no,
slip in
it's thumb and index, right index, left thumb.
Thumb and index. So I'm
Yeah, because you got to have the short end of the Cybertruck and the long end.
So somehow it's because I'm thinking it's like, I think it's like this. Double check. I think I've got it this way. I think what it was is because like it was like this.
Yeah.
And according to Bradford, there's sort of one way to remember that.
Which is
you get 3 knuckles, 1 finger, 4 knuckles. That's pi, 314. So that's like,
man, if somebody actually thought that one through before they came up with this sign, then they deserve all the credit in the world.
That's cool. That's cool. So, all right.
So it's a Cybertruck and Pi. So unfortunately, it won't be able to be released on Pi Day, at least if that happens this year, because that would be next year. But anyway,
right.
That's something cool. Anyway, when is Cybertruck going to be released? 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
When are all these feature requests going to be done? 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
There we go.
All right. When is Starship going to launch to orbit?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
My shirt answers everything. Hey, y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I am back with Dr. Scott Walter, or Scott Walter Fudd, as is in your description now. So welcome back. We are going to do something a little bit different because Elon Musk and others at Twitter have been encouraging people to post their videos on Twitter. So we actually spent some time. I was actually driving to see Brandon from Car Questions Answered yesterday, and Scott and I were on the phone, and he was a great secretary and wrote this stuff down. I transcribed it into a bit of a I don't know, spreadsheet or something. And so we have ideas on competing between Twitter and YouTube as to who's doing the best on particular, like, different pieces of technology. And then also we have a whole bunch of feature requests for both of them. So first of all, welcome, Scott. It's good to have you back again.
Well, it's good to be back, and I'm glad you're back in Athens, because I know yesterday you were on the road.
I was. And Brandon just like a few minutes ago said, hey, I'm going to produce or publish my video tomorrow at 4. And I was like, uh-oh. So I'm not positive I will be able to get it out by 4 tomorrow, because I have something like 40 gigabytes worth of video footage to sort through to try to find something good. But anyway, it'll come out probably Thursday morning. But thank you. Yeah, it was good to be on the road. And I don't know, without further ado, should we turn to this request? I can go ahead and share.
Yeah, I think maybe just the quick background. The idea
is, go do that first.
What is it that would encourage people who are currently YouTube creators to move to Twitter, or maybe exclusively to Twitter? Right. So when we talked about it, we said, well, we have to do is we have to take the point of view of basically 2 types of YouTubers. There's the YouTube creator and the YouTube consumer.
Right.
So you pretty much came up with a list of the features that Twitter would have to have in order to entice you to come over and start to really create content for Twitter, or maybe even be exclusive. Right. And at the same time, if you are a YouTube consumer, what are the things that you think Twitter has that you would then do most of your video consumption on Twitter as opposed to YouTube? How would you be able to migrate away? Right. And that's sort of what we've done. So first, you get to take it away, because you are the creator and I am more of the consumer.
Well, I mean, I think we are all consumers of this media stuff.
Yes, we are.
So I think
some are more.
I actually put the users first, because I think it's valuable to look at it from that standpoint. So I will chapter markers are always fun, but I will try to remember to put chapter markers at the bottom. So we'll have like intro, and then we'll have users, and then creators, and then feature requests. So we can start, and this is in no particular order. It's just the order that these popped up. But what you see is across the top, I have the feature, like just a short name description of it, whether YouTube has it, whether Twitter has it, who has the advantage, in my opinion, is this a feature request or not? And then a more long form description. So the first one is multi-speed playback, which is the ability to play back videos at many speeds for efficient playback. Twitter, I believe, has 3x playback, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And YouTube
maxes out at 2. So I would give it a slight advantage to Twitter. Since both platforms have that feature, it's not that important at this point. So the next one up is discoverability, or discoverable. And that is the ability to easily discover videos on the platform. And I think YouTube has that. Twitter, I would say, does not easily at this point. So certainly that is advantage YouTube. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit more.
About the discoverability.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, YouTube does a pretty good job of feeding you all kinds of ideas, and then eventually, of course, the algorithm figures out what your taste might be. In
Right.
Twitter, it seems to be reliant more on whatever your timeline is and
Yeah.
whoever you might be following. And so it's a bit more scattershot, and it's, of course, very hard to find something. And if
Right.
you want to find some other videos, even by that content creator, it's a little bit harder. So it seems to be a very different paradigm as far as feeding you information. And so YouTube is definitely better set up for someone to be able to find the kind of content they want to have.
Right. And I will add to that even finding video on Twitter is challenging. If
Yes.
you said, I want to watch 5 videos in a row on Twitter, you have to you have to figure out where they are first. So I
Right.
think you're right. I think, the paradigm for Twitter has always been, the idea was that it was a tweet, a little birdie, a little fast thing that's almost ephemeral. And so obviously with Elon purchasing it and turning it into X, that is going to change. But currently it still feels like it's saddled with that a little bit. Even I was looking for something for what was it? My video, like, I guess today, I was looking for a tweet by Elon, or maybe it was yesterday. Anyway, I was looking for it. It took me forever to find it. I finally had to go onto Google and find somebody who'd mentioned it on Twitter to be able to find it on Twitter. And I was like, well, that's not
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So video falls victim to that as well. It's just hard to find things once they have existed and gone away. So yeah, so
I can't even
definitely.
find my own tweets. I find that difficult and frustrating.
Right. Oh, you just go to your profile. But I mean, even with that,
Yeah, I know they're there, but I'm looking for a particular one, and it's really
Yeah.
hard to search for it.
Yeah.
I have to say, oh, I know it's down in December somewhere I did it, and it takes a long
Right.
time to get down there.
Right.
So there is no real easy way of getting it.
Exactly. So maybe what we should have is discoverable, maybe searchable as a separate category. I didn't really put that in, but searchability is also important.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
if I remember, there was a Lex Friedman podcast with David Kipping or something like that. It's like, oh, I can easily find that either through searching for David or searching for Lex Friedman, and then I can go back and search. So yeah, so certainly there's some friction involved in trying to find videos on Twitter at this point. The next one up is State Machine and YouTube. Well, so that is remember the last time of a video that's partially watched. So we could just, I don't know, timestamp something like that. So if you've watched 20 minutes of a 40-minute video, when you come back to it, of course, you want it to start back up at 20 minutes, not to start back at the beginning. And then you have to figure out where the heck you stopped. So YouTube has that, although sometimes it does flame out and it doesn't work. And Twitter does not, as far as I know. So advantage YouTube on that. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that yourself either.
Well, yeah. So I think that's what you put down as sort of the state machine. Yeah, I've noticed that it will be frustrating to try to get back to wherever you were. And YouTube is a lot better on having kind of a library in your history. So
Right.
you can definitely pause a video and come back to it a long time later after consuming a lot of other content. When you come back to it, it really remembers, even months later. So
Exactly.
that is kind of a nice thing that it's able to track that, even though it seems a little bit spooky that it has such a
Right.
good memory.
Well,
But-
and what it does, apparently, at least from what I've seen, if I try to copy the URL on a YouTube video that I've watched, it has an ampersand T equals however many seconds. And so it clearly changes. I mean, it changes the actual URL of the thing that you're looking at. So I'm sure that's how it remembers in a very efficient manner.
Mhm.
But certainly that would be a really nice for Twitter. If you're going to watch longer videos, I have a tendency to be very ADD and to tend to watch part of one and part of another and part of one. And then I want to go back and finish what I was watching before. And that definitely ties into the next one, which is history. So that, of course, is easily accessible list of recent videos played with timestamps, of course. And YouTube has that. Twitter, as far as I know, does not have that. So again, advantage to YouTube. So I don't know. I guess we sort of talked about that in relation to the timestamp, but it all sort of comes up with that reducing friction of finding videos, watching videos, retaining those videos. You want to, like, as a consumer, you want all of that stuff to be, dead simple, that you don't have to think about it. And it's really easy to find videos, and it's easy to remember where they were and to find them again at a later point and continue watching. So I don't know if you got anything
Right.
to
So
add to that.
Yeah, we'd like to have a good curated list.
Yes.
And of course, also a queue of what you would like to see coming up, that you can go through this menu and pick a bunch of things, queue them up, easily be able to sort them. Of course, a history of what you have, and probably something like a continue viewing list. So all the ones that you started viewing, but you didn't, but you've kind of said that, well, I'd like to retain it at a future date.
Right.
And that will just make it a lot easier for you to scroll through. And this is going to play into something we're thinking about a little bit later on.
Right.
What would be a good thing? And I think if we just back up for a second, from your standpoint as a creator,
right,
there's like one thing which is the most important for you. And that is that if YouTube or if Twitter had all day, what is the one thing that really prevents you from being able to move over to Twitter?
Sorry, you broke up for a second. What'd you say there? Sorry.
Okay, so from the standpoint that if Twitter had all these capabilities in there today, there's really one thing which is the deal breaker that would prevent you from going to YouTube over to Twitter, and that is?
Well, a lot of it comes down to monetization and
exactly. It's really all about monetization. So the first thing, of course, is what is the monetization model? Now, as a creator, you're a little bit concerned about the consumer, because if the consumer is having a very difficult time, or if there's barriers for them to go in, they're not going to consume your stuff. So as a creator, you are cognizant that the consumer has to have a good experience. Things like, a watch list that you'd be able to set up, very easy to get in and out, all that, things play correctly. But the number one thing is going to be, you need to have some form of monetization. And we know what the YouTube monetization model is sort of like.
Right.
It's not quite clear what the Twitter one is. They're a little bit different. And there could be a problem in here of, can you have like one foot in one world and one in the other, or do you have to really be almost exclusively for monetization to work at all?
Right, right. And that is interesting. I think from the consumer or user's point of view, it seems like it should be a pleasant experience. I think Elon's talked about that with just Twitter in general. He said, like, you want unregretted user minutes. You want the person to feel like the time spent on Twitter has been valuable and enjoyable. And every element of friction, like not having history, not having timestamps, not having easily discoverable videos, having videos hidden amongst other stuff, all of that makes it's less enjoyable on Twitter at this point to try to find and watch videos. That's kind of what it, from the kernel of it.
Another standpoint is, you do not need an account to be able to watch a YouTube video.
Correct.
All you need to do is just bring up a browser. You just go to YouTube. It's there. There is absolutely no barrier to entry. There's no friction. Right. Yeah, it kind of helps to maybe have a Google password or something like that. But to really get something from Twitter, the feeling is that, oh, I have to have a Twitter account and I have to go in there. Someone sends me a link to a video, I've got to jump over to Twitter. Oh, I don't like that. I want to just be able, YouTube is just so ubiquitous and such a standard.
Right.
It's like people don't even realize whether they have an account or not. And so that's like one of the barriers you have to get rid of. If I am given a link to some site or something that I'm not on, I'm probably not going to go there.
Yeah.
And so that means you need to have enough people on that platform, some sort of critical mass, that it makes sense for you to come over.
Right.
The other thing is, not all views are the same, right? Because we have to understand the model, that your monetization model on YouTube is really dictated by the number of views you get.
Right.
Every view you get on Twitter is one view you get less on YouTube.
Right.
So if you have a video which has 100,000 views total, YouTube doesn't care about that.
Right.
So when you lose that view to Twitter, it has to have the same value on the Twitter side, if not more.
Yes, exactly.
And of course, there's this other big conundrum you have is, in YouTube, the launch is extremely important. That first hour is extremely important. So if you go over to Twitter to use it to try to drive the traffic there, but you're not really driving the traffic there, you've kind of shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so it's like, how does that work? That's why I say, because basically your subscribers, everyone that's following you, is probably following you on Twitter. And if you launch on Twitter, you're going to get a really bad launch on YouTube, which means the YouTube algorithm is not going to pick it up, and you're not going to get that 100,000 views.
Right.
So you almost are in this situation that, do I just use Twitter the way it's used today is you give them a YouTube link, because when they hit that YouTube link, you get the view. But of course, Twitter loses all that revenue and you don't get a Twitter view. So what's the model, Elon? How are you going to persuade John to give up 100,000 views over on YouTube to 100,000 views on Twitter? Is it going to have the same impact?
And I want to be clear here, if we haven't been clear. The idea of this whole video is for people to watch it and comment, but part of this would be, I hope that people on both YouTube and Twitter watch this, the people who work for the companies, and consider this constructive criticism, because we've got feature requests below for both YouTube and for Twitter. Yes, exactly. Now pay $8.
It cost me $8. Yeah.
But you know, the problem is, my immediate thought is, oh, just make a separate X video app. But I know Elon really doesn't want that. He wants one app that does everything. So I don't know. Anyway, but it is complicated, right? I mean, YouTube has spent, I don't know, I joined YouTube in 2011, I think. And their videos, they've had over a decade to really refine one thing, which is serving videos. And they've gotten really good at it. And you know, regardless of all the censoring and weird stuff they do, as far as serving videos is concerned, they're really good at it. So, you know, so it's a high bar to compete with here.
But then there's the other question, and that is, I think probably just about everyone that's on Twitter also has a YouTube account or goes to YouTube. I'm not sure you can say the same thing about YouTube.
No.
So that's,
well, I mean, we could just flat out say I've got twice as many subscribers on YouTube as I have followers on Twitter. So clearly more, they're literally, now they may not be following me on Twitter, but I'm just saying, like, it looks like obviously not every person who watches me on YouTube has a Twitter account or spends much time on Twitter. So,
which is why you have to be careful that when you start launching something on Twitter, whether you are undermining that initial push that you get for all, because you want the video to go viral somehow.
Exactly.
You need it to get picked up. And so you do have that space that's over on YouTube that's not at all connected to Twitter. But unfortunately, the ignition powder that you need usually comes from Twitter. That's when you notify everyone. And part of the things that I think we'll come to is that one of the biggest complaints I see all the creators keep on saying is that the notification is always broken on YouTube. They keep on saying, "Oh, everyone's telling me they're not getting notifications. I haven't seen my videos in a long time." Subscribe. It's just like this constant thing. You got to keep on hitting the bell to get the notifications, which is why you go to Twitter, because the only way you let people know, hey, a new video is out there, is you go to Twitter, because YouTube will be really bad about that. So that's one of the reasons why everyone's kind of moving over there. Yeah. And I think the other thing,
but the problem is, of course, that currently, if everybody watched my video on Twitter, I would make no money on it. I am only able to be monetized through subscriptions right now, because I don't have enough views per month to be, you know, whatever. I'm not eligible for the John, ad revenue share.
Remember the tweet that Tim Dodd put out yesterday, which was an unusual tweet coming from
yes, it was.
Tim Dodd. That Tim Dodd stays
here, actually, as long as we're talking about this, let me
does not like to be controversial.
Here we go. Okay.
But something really upset him yesterday. And that is, you're not getting money if anyone watches your videos on YouTube either now, evidently.
Right. Yeah.
And
well, I mean, that's specifically shorts. And so I will tell you, here's a little hint from behind the scenes for people. I actually think I might do a Twitter subscriber video about money, because I don't think people, like, a lot of people complain about the integrate anyway, but if your video is 7 minutes and 59 seconds long, you can't put an ad in the middle. And that means it has to be 8 minutes or longer. And one ad in the middle of the video counts as way more than any ads that run before or after it. So effectively, these shorts are stuck in this category of no ads. So it's, you know, it's kind of running ads as people are flipping through, like in TikTok. But the problem is that there's no revenue sharing model for that. It's just very, very reduced. And so you'll notice that a lot of people, I try not to do this. I try to stop if I'm less than 8 minutes, but I recently saw some videos from an unnamed creator that were like 6 minutes long with 2 minutes of audio at the end of it, just like playing some stuff to make it 8 minutes so that it would be able to put an inline ad in it. So, you know, so that's the game that you have to play in order to be able to get remunerated at a reasonable rate on YouTube. if you do these little 30-second things, yeah, they generate nothing.
Hmm.
So, I mean, what was that? 1.5 million and you got $60? It was crazy.
Yeah. I think 1.7 million views and
Yeah.
$60 for it, or 50,
Right.
$58. And that really steamed him. I mean, usually he's very calm. And when I saw that tweet, it's like, wow. And so that gives you an idea of how the creators are being kind of pushed out. And you've been hearing it over and over that the revenue is going down because the sharing is not going so well. You know, it could be that there's just way more creators out there that, you know, that's the pie is only so big and you need more slices.
Well, yes and no, but I mean, if you get 1.7 million views, that's 1.7 million views. You know, if you get 50 views, okay, it's like, fine, okay, I only made 10 cents. But you know, if you get 1.7 million views, there should be some remuneration for that. That's a reasonable. The problem is, I think that, so YouTube did one thing well, and that is long form horizontal video. And then came TikTok. And then of course, Instagram came in and did that. And that's the short form vertical video. And suddenly YouTube was like, oh no, that's where the advertising's going. That's where all the eyeballs are going for the younger generation. And they're trying to chase that. And they are not doing a good job of that, if I might humbly say that, at least from the outside. I don't know. But it seems like that may have been a mistake on their part to try to chase that down. They may have just wanted to leave that alone and stuck to what they were good at.
Yeah, I mean, some of the shorts on YouTube are quite nice, but it's just too bad that the creators are not seeing anything for that effort.
Right. And that means that
sometimes there's more effort in the shorts.
People aren't going to post shorts on YouTube if they don't make money. Like that's the long and short of all this stuff. This video, we're going to continue talking about these features, but the long and short of it is, if you want, I mean, Elon knows this, and he's been really, really good about it. The fact that he's ad revenue sharing with people and giving 100% of subscriptions after Stripe fees and all that kind of stuff to the creators is he understands, without creators, without people making the content, the platform dies. That's all that that's all that you can get. So yeah. So anyway, let's go back, cuz we've talked a lot about that one. So
that was our sidebar.
That was our sidebar. But I did definitely just want to briefly talk about picture in picture, because they both have that, which is the ability, of course, to play it in a small screen while you do other stuff. YouTube has two sizes of the small viewer on a phone. So you can have a little baby one and a bigger one. And so I gave it the slight advantage. But more importantly, closed captioning, which is the ability to put words across the bottom. And that's not just for people who are, you know, hard of hearing, who obviously need that. And as far as I know, Twitter doesn't have that, unless somebody correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I couldn't find it, at least. But I found it somewhere, but it didn't work.
Oh, somewhere I found a CC button. Oh, it was in Spaces. I saw something in Spaces yesterday, and there was like a CC. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I hit it, and nothing.
So okay. Like, well, so maybe it works when it's not recorded. I don't know. But but anyway, you know, beyond just people who might have hearing difficulties, there's a lot of times when I have to watch something relatively quietly, or maybe I'm on an airplane or something and it's just loud and you can't really hear very well. And so being able to have the text, you know, printed under it is very, very beneficial. So, you know, I would definitely say that would be a must have for Twitter to be able to compete in that area.
Yes.
And I don't know if this works on Android, but I couldn't make it work on iPhone, but full sideways views. So if you turn the phone sideways, the video stays like small. So I couldn't get it to flip to take up the whole screen. Yeah.
That's what I'd say is kind of annoying, because we'll look at it from the standpoint of the phone, because it works a little bit different on the PC. But when you go through the timeline, you're scrolling past, the videos will kind of automatically start depending upon whether you have sound on or not. You'll be seeing it. And then if you click on it, pretty much you get that video, but it's about the same size, and you get some more controls on there, but there's no way to full screen it. But you'll see a button that you think, oh, that's the full screen button, and you hit that, and no, that's the picture in picture. Right. And the picture in picture is really tiny compared to YouTube. It's there, but it's very, very tiny. Right. And it's also kind of transparent.
Okay.
And it also
I don't think that's true on the iPhone, but that must be true on Android. Yeah.
On Android, it's transparent. And when you try to move it around, it's a little bit jumpy. It's like it prefers a certain couple of locations. You can't exactly spot it where you want it to be. Right. And I'll give them, a little bit of a pass on it, because I think it's a new thing that they just implemented recently, and it clearly needs a little bit of growth and development. But I'm glad to see it's there. An interesting thing I was able to do with your tweet yesterday is I was able to click the YouTube link, and I got YouTube up, and I got it picture in a picture, and then I was able to take the tweet and get it to the picture in picture. and somehow managed to get both of them running at the same time or close enough at the same time. So we're two John Gibbs talking over one another, just like the two of us are always talking over one another. And read the comments, John. and then I'll have that right on top of your tweet. So at some point, if you do any post editing on it, you can find the picture I sent you of like everything that's there. And I think my comment was, "Oh God, it's a cacophony." You know, it just they were all running. So it's interesting that you can go ahead and do that. It's really nice. But sometimes that's the friction. It takes a long time to get the video set up and started, and the button controls aren't there. And when you go to the controls, you really want a full screen. It's like there's no full screen. There's all this blank area. There's a couple of controls down in the middle, and then there's the ellipsis buttons up at the top, which is where you find the speed. And it's like it's all going to be consolidated. This idea of a GUI that's a little bit here, a little bit there. I don't like it. Just consistent. Make sure you have it. You don't want to have too many items in there because then it becomes confusing. But there are some basic minimums that you need to have in there. One of them is definitely full screen, the ability to scroll through, to mute, to speed it up, closed caption, and then maybe some fine tuning that you could, or go back 5 seconds or 10 seconds or some little thing like that.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't need anything fancier than that.
YouTube is as simple on the phone as you just double tap on one side or the other and it jumps back or forward 5 seconds. So yeah.
Yes.
But so I just highlighted that on the list of scroll controls. So just my personal preference, I mean, not that anybody cares, but it's like I'm watching it, it's full screen. There's literally nothing on there. But if I press on the screen, a list of controls pops up around the outside that then gives me access directly to those controls. Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty standard. It's nothing unusual, but that's my preferred way of doing it. Okay. And then of course there's embedded video, which you already talked about somewhat, like staying within the app and not having to leave it. That's one thing that Twitter is just, this is not Elon Musk's fault. This is something that happened for years, is that including me, people would go like, "Hey, I've got a new video out. Here's the YouTube link." And they click on it and they go to YouTube. And so Twitter immediately, like that, those eyeballs are off of Twitter and on YouTube for the next 20 minutes or however long the video is. So they obviously—
Is there any revenue sharing there? The fact that someone came to your link, because that's how I thought a lot of advertising works, that if someone generates a connection to your website, there's a certain amount of traffic that's drawn there. Do you think they have any revenue sharing between them? Between Twitter and YouTube?
I doubt it. I don't think so. I've from every comment that I've heard, that's just a loss. Twitter's like a loss leader. They're just like, all they do is they put somebody in the door and then shove them out the other door to someplace else.
I'm sure everyone else has negotiated that, except Twitter didn't, because Twitter was never about making money ever.
Yeah.
That makes sense. The other reason I want it embedded is that I never like a link, because for security reasons. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, should I do that?" So if it's right there, you have to hit a link, people will feel a lot more secure that they're not going to be going to some weird site somewhere.
Right. So definitely that's important. And of course they've got that now. But anyway, so it's there. It's just a little complicated to make everything work properly. And then the last one from the consumer end of things that I have, at least, is a curated list, which is just something every time you open up YouTube, if you have signed in, it will give you a list of videos that it thinks you might want to watch next. Over time, it gets reasonably good at it. It's not perfect. But certainly that's something that Twitter needs to be able to
Twitter needs that. Now, from the standpoint of a consumer, what do I use YouTube for, especially when it's mobile? It's like if I'm going for a walk, I'm multitasking at that point. I can go for a walk and I can go through all these YouTube videos I have a chance to catch up with. I want to queue them up and go for it, not worry about it. Now, when I'm on a walk, I can, keep on looking at it and everything else. But when I'm going for a drive, it's a lot tougher. Actually, so if I know I have a 3-hour drive,
hold that thought, because I have that in the feature request thing. So
but part of it comes down to the types of lists that you curate for that.
Yes.
Or your use cases, walking, exercising, driving, and what those are going to be.
Right. Yep. You'll see that down there. Anybody who's been looking at this list will notice that. So, okay. So let's quickly do the creators thing. It's less interesting to most people, but the reason why this matters is because, again, if you don't have the content creators on the platform, then the platform doesn't have a reason to exist. It's social media after all. So threshold, okay, so that's the threshold for monetization. I believe this has been reduced somewhat, but YouTube, as far as I understand it, is 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of viewing within the past year in order to be eligible for monetization. Twitter, now you can have a subscriber. I think you have to have 1,000 followers to be able to have subscribers, but in order to do the ad revenue sharing that just occurred in the last few days, you have to have 5 million impressions of your tweets for 3 straight months. So 15 million views over 3 months, which I have not crossed at this point. So I'm not able to get ad revenue.
And you need 10,000 followers.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I had that, so I forgot to add that.
Yes.
So and 10,000 followers. Yeah.
And James Stevenson had those impressions, except in June, because he probably went on vacation. So in June, he didn't get the 5 million, so he didn't get any revenue.
Exactly. And so that's what I had. I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, I had 4.2 million in May, 6.2 million in June. But in April, I only had something like 1.5 million. So I was like very close. And then, of course, July is like on track to get to somewhere around 5 million. So eventually, more than likely, I would probably hit those numbers. And that is one reason to post these videos and things like that on Twitter, is that eventually, hopefully, you will get up to that threshold. But anyway, the threshold for YouTube is high. It's hard to get 1,000 subscribers. Good God, it's really difficult, and much harder than getting 4,000 hours of viewing. And to get 5 million impressions each for 3 months, I think it's average. So if you get 6 and 4, well, it averages out. But anyway, that's also very difficult. 10,000 followers is difficult. So both of them have really high bars to be able to enable monetization, which makes it hard for the little guy. And I think, again, the tendency is for these platforms to look at these big content creators and say, yeah, we want the whale. We want Mr. Beast or something to come over from YouTube to Twitter. But you never know who the next Mr. Beast is. And why not just throw them $5 or something, right? Make the bar lower and just like make it a small payout. Now, I know it's a pain in the butt to keep track of all that stuff, but that, in my mind, like if I was just starting out and I got $5, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I've made the mountain that you have to climb to be able to make money for both of these platforms is very, very, it's daunting. And so as a content creator, I think that for the little guy, it would be really helpful to do revenue sharing from a much lower threshold than that. Not nothing. Obviously, you want people to be serious about this and to post good stuff, but you don't want it to be quite that high, in my mind, again. Inline ads. So that's the ability to have the platform insert third-party ads into the video. So I was talking about that 8-minute bar. And so if you have an 8-minute video, you can put an inline ad in. And so at 3 minutes or something, an ad plays. So those are extremely, extremely valuable ads. They're more valuable than the ones around it, for a content creator, at least. And at this point, Twitter does not have that. I know Elon has said that they're going to implement that, but it's not there yet. But that's a major income source that, like, even more than the ads around the video, the ones that are inside the video are super, super important. And I know they're a pain in the butt, people, believe me. When I finally got YouTube Premium because I was so annoyed with those dumb ads, and I'm guilty of it as much as anybody is. But anyway, they're necessary. So ad integrations. This is interesting. This is very apropos of the moment because I just posted a video today on Twitter and on YouTube. And I actually asked Twitter, and Elon, the tech support guy, Elon Musk, responded to me and said that it's okay for now. But that the idea is to actually do an ad. And I'll go ahead and, ritual vitamins. There you go. So I'm not getting paid for this one. So anyway, but you put in an ad and you personally record the ad, and that is much more effective than just having some random thing for laundry detergent pop up in the middle of your video. So that, again, is another thing, and that is acceptable on both YouTube and on Twitter. And so at this point, I don't think there's any particular advantage, except that I don't know if the people that are counting the views, because usually it's like, I want X number of views for this much money or something. I don't know if they're going to count Twitter, video views as actual views. So if that doesn't count, then big advantage to YouTube on that front. But anyway, early days with this stuff, who knows? Early days with a lot of this stuff. Channel subscriptions. So subscribe to the channel for the same amount every month. So that can be done through YouTube directly. Also, Patreon does that. Of course, they're the OG version of this. And then of course, Twitter has that as well. And so that can be $3, $5, $10, $100 a month, whatever. That's kind of up to the content creator to decide. And so I don't know, Scott, do you think, is there any particular advantage to either of them in that case?
Well, the one thing I'm thinking is that usually, see, I don't know that much about the YouTube subscriptions. Usually it's always everyone gets into Patreon. And so
Right.
Patreon is more or less supporting you to create videos, content, and it could be across any platform.
Right.
The other thing that usually ends up happening is that you go into Patreon and then you also do something with Discord. Now they are kind of separate, but it just seems to almost be, you have a Patreon, you have a Discord, and that ecosystem is very important to the content creator.
Yes.
Because that is a way that you're able to connect to the people who are able to support you, not just financially, but also intellectually with, and, help you out, give you ideas. Anyone who's looked at Tim Dodd's Discord channel, there's a lot of people that are proofreading scripts and everything else. So you need some kind of tieback ecosystem like that within Twitter that would, not, you say, well, you could just use Twitter. Isn't Twitter like Discord? Well, yeah, it kind of is, but Discord is more private and Twitter is like the whole world gets to read the whole thing.
Right.
So there is some need for an ecosystem like that. And I think for a second, just going back to your ad integrations now, when a sponsor comes to you and they say, John, I want you to promote this particular thing in there, it's a contract between them and you, and YouTube is not in there. YouTube may be mentioned in there, but you might just say, oh, a video. How much is a YouTube view worth? How much is a Twitch view worth? How much is a Twitter? And so, are they equal? And I would negotiate that in the contract up front to say, okay, if we sum these things up, what's the formula?
Exactly. So I totally agree with you. I just haven't, the next contract I do, I will almost surely have a discussion about that with them. And I don't know that the people, so just for people's information, the actual company that makes the product, if they make a widget, they usually hire some marketing company or something that's like an interface, and those people contract with the creators. And so generally speaking, widget company is not directly contacting you. There's somebody in the middle. And so those people have their own lawyers, I'm sure, and contract and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so I don't know what the answer to that is, but it is going to have to be something that will have to be discussed and probably over time adjusted for. Currently, I think the idea is, I don't know. I'll have to have a discussion about that with them. So anyway, I probably should have put the Discord thing down in feature request, but I put Discord in like quotation marks here. But both YouTube and Twitter would be beneficial to both of them. I don't think YouTube could do this easily. I think Twitter could, to create kind of a private, a Twitter Spaces, but some sort of like private bubble that content creators and people who are subscribers. In fact, that would be a huge, like if I could just migrate the people who are my Twitter subscribers into that group, that would be fantabulous to start with. And that would be a really great community. And I think I mentioned this. Well, I met you on Discord, so that was great. And then, there's like Claudia, there's Dusty, there's lots and lots of people that, and Mars, sorry, Mars Embassy. Sorry about that, Keith. But anyway, there are a lot of people on Discord. It's not just about the money. There's a lot of support in terms of creating these things. I know that Tim Dodd does a lot of his research through Discord. He asks people to do research on rocket engines or, physics or whatever it is. And so it's incredibly helpful. It's like crowdsourcing some of the things. So yeah, having some sort of answer to Discord on Twitter seems like really, really easy to do. And they really should do that.
Well, John, if you ask me, I think there already is a lot of Discord on Twitter.
Ba-dum-bum. All right. So that this video doesn't take forever, let's move down here. Live streaming. So both of them have that capability with the caveat that Twitter at this point can only live stream audio. It can't live stream video.
Spaces, yep.
Yeah. And so Spaces needs to move towards a video Spaces version of that. And I would say that should be a
super chat.
Pardon me?
There's no super chat in Spaces.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There is in YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
have
the
tips
whole idea,
underneath
the
that.
whole reason for doing a live stream on YouTube is the super chats.
Right. Right.
That's where you get a certain amount of revenue. So that's part of the reason for having a live stream is ability for someone to be able to do that. And that's going to tie into the tips and everything else.
Exactly. So yeah, I see what, yeah, because often like on YouTube, the super chat gives you the kind of pushes you to the top of the queue in terms of like being visible in the comments so that the person who's doing the live stream has an opportunity to see that and respond to your question. So yes, that is, it would be interesting. I don't know that Twitter would want to have all of their spaces. You really wouldn't want Elon Musk up there like doing his thing and having like 1 million super chats coming up because it would just
You
be
enable or
awful.
disable whether you
Yeah,
want to have
and
it.
enable, and I believe you can, in fact, I'm positive you can do that with YouTube as well. When you set up your live stream, you have like super chat, like there's just a button that you check. So, so yeah, but anyway, the ability to do super chats in spaces and the ability to do audio, video in spaces as well as just audio optionally. Again, I think default should be audio at this point because in spaces, it's mostly, I think, people out walking their dogs or cooking dinner or, you know, just kind of hanging around. So you probably don't want folks with their hair and curlers and everything doing that, but optionally, at least it would be nice to be able to have video. And then of course there's tips. We just talked about that. So that's important. And then the last thing down here is Creator Studio. Both of them have Creator Studios. What that is if you upload a video and you want to trim something or add some music to it or blur something like license plate or something like that, you're like, whoops, I forgot to do that. You can do that stuff, but both of them are just kind of awful at this point. So this is partly a feature request. I guess I should have put it in there as a feature request, but the idea would be to create a good Creator Studio. This is something with a good UI, super lightweight. One of the biggest problems with YouTube is that you do the studio and let's say like you accidentally put something in where someone's like, please blur my face. You have the choice of taking down that video or blurring their face within the video and waiting 3 or 4 hours for YouTube to get around to redoing whatever they do and re-uploading that video and replacing it. And that's not acceptable under a lot of circumstances because the person's like, hey, I don't want my face on this. And you're like, uh-oh. So then the option is you have to take the video down, do it yourself and re-upload it, which kills that whole first hour, you know, gunpowder that you were talking about. So, so a lightweight Creator Studio that can do things like trim beginnings and endings, do some basic cutting in the middle, blurring, some audio stuff. I would say like text overlays would be great if you wanted to put a quick text. I'm thinking mostly like, you know, you're doing the run and gun, you're shooting on your phone and you just want to very quickly be able to do some stuff to make it look a little bit higher production value. If I'm working on my desktop computer, I'll edit it in Final Cut because it's like way better than anything online is going to be. Yeah.
Yes, that's the whole thing is that YouTube, I think of being more of a PC kind of application and viewing. A lot of people really like to watch that content on their computer. Whereas Twitter, I always thought of being more of a mobile app. So the Creator Studio should also be set up as a mobile app. So you're right. You can run and gun. You can go out and you can do something. You can clean it up really quickly without having to go over to your laptop and do the minimal amount of stuff that you need. It does not have to be a lot. We don't want it to be heavyweight or anything like that, but really just enough. And then incrementally, you might add a few things here and there as it sort of discovered that, oh, this would be a nice thing. That would be a nice thing. But out of the chute, just make sure you get the MVP, the minimum viable product, nothing more, get the feedback, make sure it runs really well on a phone. Again, things like with noise reduction, something to make sure the voice gets enhanced when it comes through the blurring the text. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So that was about it.
Just simple beginning and ending. And then maybe if you had uploaded a default introduction, like my little glasses thing with the music, that you could just automatically slap that onto the beginning of it. You know, that kind of a thing. Yeah, it doesn't have to have a ton of features. It just needs.
I think we also talked about thumbnails as part of that.
Yes. Yes.
Twitter does not have a thumbnail.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so, it doesn't have chapters.
All right. Oh yeah, and Twitter doesn't have chapters either, which is important for long form stuff. So, okay. So you want to move to feature requests? This is the fun one. We finally get to do feature requests.
Now we glossed over tips. Is that because you want to save that for another?
Oh, no. I mean, we just talked about it in the sense of the super chats and things like that. But yeah, we're going to talk about that more in just a minute under the feature requests.
All right. I just want to make sure because we have ideas.
Yeah, we have ideas. And in fact, actually, I'm sorry, folks, this is a long video, but you're going to have to watch another one to get to the heart of that one. So sorry about that. Anyway, we didn't want to go too far off track, the YouTube and Twitter stuff immediately. But anyway, feature requests this is for both platforms. Auto like. So once you watch a certain percentage of the video, maybe a third of it, whatever, pick the percentage you want, companies. Once that percentage is watched, automatically hit the heart button or the thumbs up button or whatever to like that video. The viewer can then go back and decide that they're like, no, I watched it because I hated it and I want to unlike it. That's fine, right? You can always do that. But I would suggest that you automatically like highlight that. Once a person's watched that much of the video, it feels like you should get some credit. What would that be? Social credit, something like that. But it helps because the more likes that you get on a video, of course, the more it gets promoted. And so that seems like an important thing. So, and that was, I believe, your suggestion. So good suggestion. Mm-hmm. And then this was definitely yours, which is the auto ghost subscription. And I added a little bit to this. If a viewer watches 100% of a video and or 3, 4, 5 of your videos or something within a fairly short period of time, that you ghost subscribe them, which means that you auto, the idea of the bell notification, you get lots more notifications of that person's video over time. And then if somebody stops watching it, then of course they go back down again, but at least you sort of temporarily at least push them up in that person's feed.
Right. So it may not be a full-blown subscribe and that they've actually hit it because they don't really want to subscribe. So we don't want to go that amount. But it's a way of informing the algorithm that, well, this person seems to like this content. So let's make sure we keep suggesting it when the next one comes out, which is the whole idea of a subscription.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, folks, subscriptions and stuff like that matter a lot.
Don't forget, like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and subscribe while we're at it.
Already, John, aren't we?
We're what?
Are we past 20%?
Yeah, we're past 20%. So
we're past 20%, so you should have liked by now.
We better be past 20%. Otherwise, we're in big trouble. This is going to be a long video. This feels very meta to talk about all of this stuff, which is kind of behind the scenes things. But anyway, this is something for Twitter. Or I guess maybe YouTube could do this too. But anyway, Twitter should create a seamless video migration tool so the creator can migrate selected or groups of videos from YouTube without, again, reduce the friction. So it's basically like, here's a link to 10 videos that I think would be really great on Twitter. You feed that into some web interface, and the thing over the next couple of hours sucks all that data down, figures out the metadata, like reads the descriptions, creates tweets for you automatically, and then maybe queues them up. And then you can choose when to do each one of the tweets to release them out into the wild. But again, make it simple. Make it easy for the creators, because that way you're going to think about how much content is on YouTube right now. I personally have somewhere around 850 videos on there, so it's like Twitter, it's going to take forever for them to get 850 of my videos. But if I could migrate them easily, then suddenly like my top 20 or something could just be moved over immediately. Super great. That would be wonderful. Yep. Okay. So video in video. And this is actually your thing. This is actually really interesting. I don't think this is going to be easy to implement, but I think this is super cool. So if you have, like, if I want to have something of Sandy Monroe tearing down like the Cybertruck when that comes out, and it's like, oh yeah, let's show a 2-minute clip of his video of the Cybertruck teardown, that rather than that being an inline edit in my video, it would actually literally be pulled from his. And that the revenue sharing model would then be, if I had a 20-minute video and showed a 2-minute clip of his, and I generate $1,000, he gets 20% of that, right? If I've got that correct. Anyway, but the revenue sharing would be such that you would get a certain percentage based on the length of these clips. And maybe there would be a certain minimum, like if you only showed 10 seconds, then it's like, no, good God, that would be crazy with all that. But if it was a longer clip, that it would be some sort of quotation with a revenue sharing model. That seems like
it's sort of like a hypertext link inside of a video.
Yes.
Or you think of it like a retweet, because right now everyone wants to make sure that when they do the retweets, that the originator of that gets the credit. That's kind of the whole idea. And you can encapsulate something around it, so everything becomes kind of parenthetical. And a lot of times you'd like to comment on it, and either it'd be something you would splice in the video, or maybe you can actually put it up in the corner while you're looking up. But the idea is that you haven't actually downloaded that video. You haven't done a screen grab or anything of it and pasted it in. It's
Right.
really there, which means the algorithm and everything is well aware of where that came from.
Right.
There is no copyright violation. It's very clear. You can see who it is, and that person gets a certain amount of ad revenue for the fact that that amount was viewed. And maybe it's like YouTube looks at it and says, hey, guess what? Sandy Monroe's video had a 2-minute sequence watched.
Right.
Here, Sandy gets 2 minutes of that, or it's like a proportion of your overall thing. And that way, you don't get this feeling that the content creators are lifting someone else's work. Everyone gets the credit. You don't have to worry about copywriting. It's very easy to discover where it came from. And it will get a bit meta after a while, because then someone will be including someone else's video, which is including someone else's. And it's going to be turtles all the way down kind of thing. But I'm thinking that that would be a kind of sophisticated way to get around all kinds of copyright issues, of, copyright strikes or this and that. I want to comment on some funny SNL skit.
Right.
But if I try doing something like that, YouTube takes it down right away and says that NBC Universal does not allow you to do this. Right. It's like, oh, okay, but let me set something up like that I can like kind of talk around at other people and look at it, and it's very clear I haven't stolen or lifted anything.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And actually, something I can't believe I forgot about this because audio is so important to me, but music. I don't know that YouTube has a gigantic library of royalty-free music that you can use with attribution, usually whatever. And Twitter definitely needs to do that as well. They just need like a stable of that kind of stuff. And while they're at it, like a stable of basic special effects, like royalty-free, fireworks, explosion, whatever kind of things that you could put in there. You're like, if you're doing one of those kind of videos where you're like, oh, wow. And then like the cut and there's like and then you move to the next thing, whatever. Not my style of video, but it would be very cool for if you're doing that kind of style.
Now, how do you know, how do the copyright strikes work as far as music? Because my understanding is that if someone uses a piece of music in a video and someone discovers that, they can do a copyright strike, which means from YouTube, they get all of the credit. And I know Tim Dodd and others have kind of complained about that when it's been taken down, that why is that guy getting the whole cut? I just had a 90-minute video and there was like 9 seconds of something in there that was like background music. I wasn't even aware it was in there. And now this guy has taken all my monetization. That's wrong. And I'm not sure, is that something that the DCM is saying, that's just, sorry, that's how it is? Or is that more of the YouTube terms and conditions to make sure it's not abused? Because there are a lot of people out there that are abusing that. Right. And it's absolutely not germane to what's going on in the video. A lot of times it's accidentally in there, again, because someone was playing a radio in the background.
Right. Yeah, I have to be really careful. So I believe that there's two different things. Number one is a copyright strike. And that would be if you showed some stuff from NBC, like Saturday Night Live could be like copyright strike. You can't show this. The music companies are not that at all. They're like, oh, by all means, show this with my 9 seconds of audio in there, but now I want all the money. So that's a different thing, where what they're saying is they're claiming ownership of that. And yeah, it seems, I remember traveling, I was in Charleston and I was at a hotel and trying to shoot these videos, and there were speakers everywhere playing music, pop music. And I was like, oh my gosh, where am I going to go? Because I can't like have it just playing in the background, because I'll get, demonetized for that immediately.
Ooh, so that's an idea. Yeah. Wait a minute. I mean, noise filters are able to take stuff like that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would Twitter be able to go through and clean up your audio and remove that?
Okay.
And preserve everything else.
So I will tell you this, before YouTube was purchased by Google, or maybe around the time. Anyway, back in the day, I had a couple of videos that I had royalty-free music on. And for some reason, the algorithm decided that still had royalties on it. And it then went and literally removed it. So I have some old videos. If you go look at my Mount Rainier climbing video on my Whole Nuts and Donuts channel, there's like all these big sections with no sound, with no music on it. And you'll be like, why is that the case? Well, they literally took it out. So that was like 10 years ago. So they've been able to do that for a long time. The problem is that the music companies don't want the music removed. They want the money. So they've basically changed the rules around now so that they get to take the money rather than removing it. But it would be.
But I'm not talking about removing. I'm talking about filtering out. So if you were talking and there is music in the background,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
they just remove that and your voice still comes through crystal clear.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying that the problem is that the alignment is incorrect.
Yeah, the alignment.
These companies want to make. They don't want you to take your video down or remove the music. They want to make money. And so they want you to keep the music in there and make money. But
Well,
Twitter,
they're really incentivizing you to continue to make these things that they're making tons of money off of. What they should be doing is getting a cut of it, because if they put you out of business, you're out of business. They're not making money.
right.
So
Well,
it should be rather fair. And that's why I ask, is that a YouTube terms and conditions kind of thing, or is that like a DCM? Is it in the law that the first person to claim, because you could have 5 copyright violations.
Right.
The thing is, only the first one can claim the whole video, and the others, and it starts to become like bit mining, right? You know, everyone's out there trying to find who's got the copyright violation. If you're the first one there, boom, you get it. So I think that there needs to be something, and we have to find out, is that the law, or is that something that Twitter could clean up?
Right.
With,
this is something,
the
technology absolutely exists for Twitter to clean this up. And again, that could be in the creator studio, where you could just have a button that's like, please remove background music out of my video. Or even for
but
a
even
period
then, the
of
terms
time.
and conditions, is it something that you just get the lawyers to write the terms and conditions in such a way? And obviously they have to abide by whatever the DCM is,
right,
regarding the copyright and stuff like that. But it seems to me right now, YouTube, I can't believe that in the law it says that, oh, if there's this copyright strike that or infringement, that all the revenue goes to that person. It should only be a fraction.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. The DCM, what was that? The Millennium Copyright, whatever that sucker is very, very in favor of the RIA.
Okay, so then you need a technological solution. It's not that. Okay. Yeah. Well.
No,
leave it to our representatives to come up with a law like that.
Right. Exactly. Well, the problem was that law was written around the time of Napster, and these guys were like, we're going to go out of business if Napster keeps stealing our music. So they were like, we're just going to blanket this. It's a carpet bomb. It's basically a carpet bomb legal solution. And 20 years later, it makes no sense at all anymore. It's really old tech. But the problem is that these companies are very happy about it because they make a lot more money than they should. Because you're right. If Tim does a 60-minute video and there's accidentally 20 or even intentionally 30 seconds of music in there, give them whatever tiny little percentage of that whole thing. That's what they get. They don't get 100% of it. That's insane, right? That's devaluing all the work that Tim or anybody else has done. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a YouTube channel that goes through a lot of movie music. Where he's talking about what makes it so great. And so he's taking a lot of Star Wars themes and like playing parts of it and explaining this and that. And I'm wondering, why is he doing it? Because he must be handing over all the money, or there must be some sort of agreement, because in many ways, what he's doing is he's promoting that music. It becomes an ad. Someone likes it so much and they think, oh, I'm going to go out and purchase this now. So there must be some level that they're able to do that, or some agreement that he's able to set up.
Well, I'll tell you that I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I'll get a chance to talk to Rick Beato. He's in Atlanta. He's a music producer, but he's got a really popular YouTube channel. And he has several of his videos where he'll play little pieces and actually talk through, and he'll say, look at the chord progression, or look at what they're doing in the background. And there's these layers that they're putting in. And oftentimes he has to play the music himself on a guitar or something in order for it not to get a strike, because, if he tries, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think Led Zeppelin was really bad. Pink Floyd was really bad. There's several, classic rock bands that just, if you played 10 seconds of their music, they're either like, give me all the money or remove it. So, there's some that he has to be super, super careful with. I think Queen was also pretty bad for a while, but then he actually talked to Brian May and actually got it sort of worked out so that they could do that. But they do a lot of those channels. And then also, one of our favorite ones, The Critical Drinker, when he mostly, I think, plays trailer sections, but you could also get a strike if you played 30 seconds from a movie as well. And so I think he gets around that by showing the trailers and just cutting that up and showing pieces of that. So, yeah. So it does become really dicey, and it would be so much easier if you could just quote these things. If you could just install something that was like an official repository and pay them the amount of money that they're owed from that, it would be great. I think people would be happier. It would make me happier. I wouldn't be so stressed about like how much I can use of any individual video or something. It's like, geez, it gets crazy. All right. So that's a lot of stuff there. So video, that quotation. Better analytics, we can just touch on this really quickly. Both of them, YouTube has better analytics at this point. They're Google's baby. And so Google has crazy analytics, but both of them could present more useful analytics. I do like that Twitter has them. I've recently been looking at them, and it's really cool what they've got so far, but it's obviously, early days for that. So anyway, and then
my thought on that is that as far as the Twitter analytics go,
yes,
everyone says that they are using third-party applications to get their Twitter analytics. And to me, that's kind of ironic.
Interesting.
That if you really want to find out, what's going on, there's a couple of third-party apps that give you that information that's missing from Twitter. How they get access to that, I have no idea, whether it's using some other kind of search engines. But Twitter should be at least as good as a lot of the third-party apps out there.
And I believe that that's going to change rapidly, because I've seen the analytics has gotten better by leaps and bounds in just the last couple of weeks. So it's changing.
It has
rapidly,
to for you to understand
yeah,
where your revenue source is coming from.
Exactly.
So you as a creator, you cannot do anything without any decent analytics.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just, you're in the dark. You don't know what you're doing. This is the one where we're going to table this for the next video for a lot of this, but Xcoin, and specifically here for Twitter or YouTube could make Ycoin if they want to. But the idea would be that you would reduce the friction of thanking somebody. We'll just take Twitter specifically, but they do a good video or they do just a funny tweet, right? I mean, something like that. And you're like, oh man, that'd be cool to tip that guy like a quarter or 50 cents or something. Well, that person, number one, the content creator, whoever made that, would get like a penny out of that, because Stripe takes its fees, and the credit card company takes its fees, and there's all this stuff that comes off the top. But then second of all, it would be pointless for even Twitter to do that, because they're going to lose money on a transaction like that. So the idea would be that you could purchase, like you said, a casino where you get chips, and they're abstracted from a currency, but you could, let's say it was approximately 25 cents for one X coin or something. That means if you were in Europe, it would be whatever, 20 pence or whatever the cents of a euro.
20 cents, 20 euro cents. Yeah.
Anyway, and then if you were in Japan, it's however many yen, you know what I'm saying. But anyway, you would do these things, but they would be abstracted from the individual currencies. And then you could just trade them back and forth. So, Scott's like, oh, that was a really funny tweet that John did. And it's like, here, have 2 chips or something, right? So it's like, you just trade them around.
You do it that. And so, beginning of the month or something like that, you buy a stack of chips.
Right.
So whatever the transaction cost is comes off the top. And after that, it's just a simple ledger of these chips getting moved around within this economy. And at some point you can cash out those chips or just keep piling them up.
Right.
So,
and the beauty of it is
a poker game where everyone's pushing the chips in and around, and there's no taxation going on.
Exactly.
There's no transaction fee. It's exclusively that. And then when the game's over, you take that pile of chips and you go over and you just decide, do I turn it into cash, or you tell the casino, nah, hold on to my chips, I'll be back tomorrow.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The whole thing is that every single, if you paid me $1 and then I paid you back $1 on Twitter, we would each end up with maybe 30 cents, and all these companies would end up with like $1.20 or so. 30 cents each, and the companies would get more money out of this than we would. So there's this huge amount of drag. There's all this taxation on doing this. So something like Xcoin in this context reduces that. And we're going to table the rest of that discussion because it gets way bigger than that.
It gets pretty big. Video. But the one thing I would add, and the reason you want to do it, is that there are definitely a lot of tweets and everything that I would like to tip. But if the idea that in order for the tip to be even at least bit meaningful, I would have to tip about $5 or something like that. It's like, no tweet's that good. Okay. Yeah. So what ends up happening is you're just kind of waiting for, the high rollers out there every now and then to kind of throw a little bit of money here and there to help someone out, So, a coin for the Witcher here and there. Is that going to happen? The idea is that if you make the tips really cheap and very easy to do, not costly on anyone, then you are actually going to see more money flowing through the system.
Exactly.
Not less. You're going to see more. So you're going to have an accumulation of these smaller things that are going to add up to bigger things, because you are not going to get someone tipping someone $100 here or there.
No. Well, it's unlikely. No. Somebody will do it, but it's unlikely.
It's just not going to happen. There's a greater chance that you are going to get 100 or even 1,000 people saying, yeah, I'll throw 25 cents. That was a really clever tweet.
Right.
And then you do that. And then in that sense, whatever tax Twitter puts on it or whatever they have for the transaction cost, because there's going to be so many more transactions, they will probably make out better at the end of the day than if they have this ruthless, heavy transaction fee on top, heavy cut. Because right now the super chats on YouTube, I think they take at least a 30% cut. They take quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Patreon's the same thing. So in the end, a lot of people have the Patreon channels. Once they have a really good Patreon, it's like, get rid of it. Let's just go direct at that point. Just cut me a check directly at the end of the month. And that way you are making sure that creator is getting all the money and that 30% of it isn't just evaporating.
Right. Exactly. So yes, for that purpose. So again, and it gets way bigger than that, but we'll just hold that on. And I need to share screen again. I just realized.
Way bigger,
so,
but that's the idea behind it.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, and then the last two ideas are a little bit related, but I'll call it Twitter radio or X radio or something like that, is like, and this is for both YouTube and or Twitter, but like Pandora or Apple Music, where you get a playlist based on your preferences and for various activities, but it just does it automatically. It's good. Again, you want it to be a pleasurable experience. So you could have a morning station where you get up and you know that you want to watch, like, I hate to admit this, but I'm an addict of Stephen Mark Ryan. So I always watch his video in the morning. And then there's, maybe I'll watch Dylan Loomis's from the night before or something, whatever. But it would figure it out over time and go like, I'm going to queue up 5 or 6 videos for you to have while you're having coffee or your workout session. And that could be like, you go like, I want my workout station. And that's like talking heads with less video stuff so that you're not constantly getting your phone out and going like, I just, for example, I watched the Veritasium episode on fireworks recently. And I made the mistake of watching that at the gym. And I was like, well, crap. So I had to stop after like a couple of minutes and go like, okay, I gotta watch that. But anyway, you would get things that would serve that did not have a lot of visual so that it was more about the auditory experience. Whatever that, driving station, whatever, long form station, something where I'm like, I only want things that are at least 30 minutes long. That's that station. So you give me the long stuff that I like. Lex Friedman podcast, for example, things like that. So you could create these stations and then it would curate it because of course you're like, you give it the thumbs up or down, or you skip it or whatever it is. So the algorithm would improve itself for you over time.
Right.
Again,
and you give it an idea. Yeah. What you want in the morning, again, which is some of those videos maybe you didn't see the night before, something that's going to be appropriate around lunchtime. In the evening, we all know it's going to be something by John Michael Gauthier because, we want to relax and fall asleep.
Right.
So then and again, when you go on a drive, a lot of times I forget to set something up.
Right.
And the way it works in the Tesla, it's going to be the same with every other car, is you really can't play the YouTube video directly. You have to play it on your phone, which means you have to set it up on Bluetooth. And then the other problem, of course, is there's a lag between the Bluetooth and the actual audio coming off it. I mean, it's like a couple of seconds. It's
long.
Yeah. So it'd be nice to have it integrated into the Tesla. And of course, the other thing, when you go to the supercharger and you bring up the theater on the Tesla, what is the one app that's missing?
Right.
It's Twitter.
Well,
so
that is
Twitter
the next one.
You
right
can't
here.
do it. And then it means the only way you can do the Twitter, look at a Twitter video, is you have to then use your phone, which means you have to use the Bluetooth, which means the voice sync with the video is going to be all off at that point.
Right.
So you really do want to integrate it in there. And again, this whole idea is really, something like a Twitter radio, which I like to see, just completely integrated in. So easy for you to go through these different stations, a bit like Spotify, integrated into the controls of the steering wheel. Now, I know it's kind of a small ecosystem of just Teslas, and you want to look at like, can you expand this to all the cars that are out there? But right now, beta test it in the Tesla environment. What's it going to look like? What should it look like going forward?
Well, in the interface, because as I said down in my description, it's like audio and video in a quote drivable mode with minimal visual interaction. And I know Tesla is all about eventually we're not going to have to like touch the steering wheel and we'll be passengers, but that's still, it's going to take a couple of years. Even if they got there technologically tomorrow, it's going to be a couple of years before the legislature gets around to like agreeing to that. So anyway, in the meantime, just have something set up, like have a drivable mode where it's just easy to navigate and it integrates with the X radio, with Twitter radio, so that you have these stations like Apple Music is a good example on Here, let me stop sharing here quickly so I can use my hands. But Apple Music has, like, when you bring it up on the car, it just has your stations across the top. Or if you do Apple CarPlay or something, whatever it is. But it's just a really simple interface where you just push one button and it just automatically loads up whatever that is. So you're like, oh, I want my driving playlist or my long form playlist or my workout playlist or whatever. I missed my morning, station, so I'll do that. Whatever that thing is, you just queue it up with one button push and you're done. And it gives you the stuff that you want. And then, yeah, you can use, if you don't want that video, you just click the scroll wheel and it pops over to the next one, just like with music. Yeah, it'd be brilliant.
Did you just do something there?
No, I just did my thumbs up. Why?
No, because an icon just appeared on the screen of a thumbs
really?
up.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. Did it do it again?
Weird. A blue thumbs up. Oh, I did it.
Did you really? Maybe
it's.
Wow. I'm not seeing that at all. Maybe it's only on the web app.
Something happened there that when I did my thumbs up, now it's not. That's weird. You're going to see it on the playback that suddenly it showed up. Maybe not. I don't know. Everyone's going to think, oh, he's crazy. He's seeing things right now. But
we've been talking for too long about this stuff. So, okay. So we have been doing this for, Scott's going crazy. Is it showing up again?
Okay. Oh, well.
Wow. That's so weird. Maybe it was your, do you have a new camera?
A new camera. So I'm wondering is if it threw something in there all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It was strange. It read my gesture, I think.
Wow. That's really cool. All right. Well, we have kept folks on this for a long time. So again, if you have comments or other thoughts, I'm sure there's tons of stuff that we haven't gotten at this point, but we would love to hear about that. And again, for people who are working for Twitter or YouTube, hopefully this is useful. We're giving you feedback about, at least from our point of view, what we think are important things that need to be fixed. And yeah, so thank you so much again, Scott, and definitely stay tuned for the next video, because that's going to be even cooler. We're going to get into some stuff. So in the meantime, we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.